Do you get knee pain when sitting for long periods of time? If you get knee pain when sitting, then this video is for you. I'm Dr. Dave Candy, and in this video, I'm going to give you tips you can use to sit more comfortably, plus stand back up after sitting for a while without as much pain and stiffness in your knees. Now, there are a lot of different things that can cause stiffness in your knees when you're sitting for long periods of time, but most of them are kneecap problems. You may have some arthritis on the back of your kneecaps where that arthritis presses down on your thigh bone, or you may have something called chondromalacia patella, which is really just kind of a milder form of arthritis, or you may have patellofemoral pain syndrome, which is where your patella or your kneecaps aren't tracking right or aren't centered right on the thigh bone. But all of the problems really have to do with the kneecaps. And there are two big things that can create more pressure between your kneecaps and your thigh bones when you're sitting for long periods of time, which then translates into more pain or more stiffness when you do go to stand back up. Now, the first one is when you sit with your knees bent for a long period of time, that stretches the thigh muscles, and your kneecap is actually a bone that sits inside your quadricep tendon where it runs over your knee. And so if your quadricep muscles or your thigh muscles are tight, the more your knees are bent, the more that kneecap gets compressed up against the thigh bone. And if you do have some wearing down of the cartilage on your knees, for example, from chondromalacia or from arthritis, then that compression of the back of the kneecap into the thigh becomes painful when it's been there for a long period of time. So just straightening your knees out a little bit more when you are sitting can be something that's helpful. It's also good to kind of move your knees, because when you move your knees or kind of move them around, that movement secretes a lubricating fluid that helps loosen your joints and makes your joints not feel quite so stiff. Now, it is also a good idea to stretch your thigh muscles, because if your thigh muscles aren't as stiff, then you won't get as much compression of that kneecap. And I do have another video about ways to stretch your quadricep muscles or your thigh muscles, which I'll put a link to that video here. Now, additionally, you don't want to sit with your knees too far together or sit with your legs like that. Additionally, sitting with your legs out to the side where there's asymmetrical pressures on your knee joint, that can also throw the tracking off of the knees sideways. Your kneecaps normally sit inside a groove on your thigh bone or your femur. And if you've got your femurs or thighs rotated inwards, or if you're sitting kind of sideways like this, your kneecaps get off kilter in that groove, and they can start to put more pressure on the side of the groove. Typically, the kneecaps will tend to move more towards the outside of the groove, and you may even see that your kneecaps press outwards, or in certain views of x-rays, you can actually see where the kneecaps go out to the side. And that can create more compression on the outer side of the kneecap, particularly if you have things like IT band syndrome. That can create more compression on the outer side of the kneecap as well. So you do want to try to sit with your knees and your hips and your feet all in a square alignment, rather than having your knees coming inwards like that, or sitting off to the side one way or the other, or even crossing your legs like that creates asymmetrical forces across your kneecap. Now, no one can sit perfectly like this all the time, but the more often that you do sit symmetrically, the less likely you are to cause muscle imbalances that make your kneecaps track off to the sides when you're sitting. Now, when you do go to stand back up, if you've been sitting in a better position, you're less likely to have pain when you do get back up. But when you know you're getting ready to move, moving your legs around a little bit to get that lubricating fluid or synovial fluid released from your joints is a good idea to do. And then when you do go to stand up, there are actually some really easy tips that you can use to make standing up easier. Now, first of all, you want to scoot out to the front edge of your chair, because if you're trying to stand up from far back in your chair, then you've got a lot of distance to cover to stand up this way. So scooting out forwards in your chair is one good tip. Now, once you've scooted out forwards in your chair, you also want to make sure you have a good hip, knee, toe alignment. That if your knees are inwards like that, or as you stand up, if your knees go to buckle inwards like that because of weakness in your hips, that can create more pressure on your kneecaps as well. So you want to think about keeping your hips, knees, and toes all in alignment. You might even have to think about driving your knees outwards as you go to stand up to prevent them from collapsing in. Again, mostly if you do have some weakness in your hips or if your feet tend to overpronate. So keeping hip, knee, toe alignment when you go to stand up. The other tip, you look from a side view. If you're sitting all the way back in the chair, again, there's a lot of distance to cover here to get your body weight over top of your feet. But if you scoot forwards a little bit in the chair, pull the knees a little bit closer to you, and then lean your body forwards, and it makes it much easier to stand up. The more you lean forward, your bottom almost naturally pops up off the seat. There's almost no muscle and effort involved in this whatsoever. It's just physics. As this goes down, this comes up. So you use that mechanical advantage and then come up with barely any knee pain at all. So those are the tips to help you sit more comfortably without knee pain while you're sitting, as well as to stand back up after you've been sitting for a while. Now, if you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe to our channel. We've got lots of different videos on how to relieve knee pain in our knee pain relief playlist. Additionally, we post new videos regularly, so make sure to turn on notifications so you get notified of our future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.